Think of your worst day at school. Sounds like hell, doesn't it? But compared to historical punishments, this was just a small misunderstanding. Today, we will dive into a world where standing in a corner is a vacation at a resort, and historical punishments turn your worst day into a fairy tale. Are you ready? Then let's go on a journey through the top 9 most terrible punishments in the history of mankind. The Brazen Bull. Kicking off our list at number 9 is a punishment that really puts the moo in movingly horrific. The Brazen Bull. Invented in ancient Greece, this was not your typical farmyard bull. This metal beast was a diabolical device where the unlucky guest of honor would be locked inside and roasted alive. Imagine being inside a giant metal cow over a bonfire and you're not there for s'mores. The kicker. The bull was designed to convert screams into bull-like sounds, making the victim's final cries eerily similar to a livestock serenade. It's like if your kettle could imitate your word. The inventor? He got a taste of his own medicine, becoming the bull's first main course. Talk about a product demo. So next time you're heating up leftovers and hear the microwave ding, be thankful it's not a bronze bovine cooking up something far less appetizing than your midnight snack. And remember, in the world of ancient punishment, it's always better to be the farmer, not the cattle. Scaphism. Sliding into number 8 on our not-so-coveted list is scaphism, also known as the boats. Now, if you're thinking of a leisurely cruise, this ancient Persian method of execution was less love boat and more note boat. Here's the scoop. The unlucky participant was sandwiched between 2 boats, force-fed a diet that would make any fast food joint blush, and slathered in milk and honey. Sounds like a weird spa treatment, right? But here's the twist. They were left to float in a stagnant pond, turning them into a bug buffet. Over days or even weeks, insects would do their thing, leading to a demise that's not just slow, but also, well, bug. Imagine being at a picnic where you're not just bringing the food, you are the food. And the only guess? It's like ordering a meal that eats you, which is the kind of dining experience that definitely deserves 0 stars on ye olde Yelp. So next time you're swatting away at a pesky fly, remember the tale of scaphism. It's a stark reminder that in the grand buffet of ancient punishments, you definitely don't want to be on the menu. And you thought double dipping was a dining faux pas. Impalement. Claiming the not-so-coveted 7th spot on our historical horror hit parade is impalement. And before you think it's about a vampire's least favorite way to wake up, let me set the record straight. This method of medieval meat your maker was a favorite of Vlad the Impaler. And no, he wasn't just into extreme body piercings. Vlad was kind of like the Gordon Ramsay of punishment if Gordon Ramsay skewered people instead of beef. Victims were placed atop a sharp stake, and gravity did its gruesome dance, pulling them down in a manner that's definitely not approved by chiropractors. It was a slow, painful. Picture this. You're a medieval peasant, and your king decides to throw a barbecue, but instead of grilling sausages, he's roasting, well, let's just say not sausages. You'd think twice about jaywalking or chewing with your mouth open, wouldn't you? Impalement wasn't just a punishment. It was a message. Behave, or you're the next kebab. It's like getting a wish you were here postcard, but instead of sunny beaches, it's a picture of Bob from down the lane becoming a human popsicle. So next time you're considering complaining about your dentist's gentle touch, remember the impalement enthusiasts of yore. Suddenly flossing doesn't seem so bad, does it? Breaking wheel. Rolling in at number 6 on. If you're imagining a fun carnival-style Wheel of Fortune, think again. This was more like Wheel of Misfortune, where the only prize was a swift trip to the afterlife. No passing go, no collecting $200. The breaking wheel was like the worst yoga class you could ever imagine. Victims were tied to a large wheel, and the executioner would play a twisted game of This Little Piggy, but with a hammer and limbs instead of toes. The result? A human pretzel, but with significantly less cheer and no salt. Imagine being the town crier having to advertise this event. Come one, come all, see the human wheel of woe. Watch as we turn men into macabre merry-go-round. Not exactly the kind of show you'd bring a date to, unless your date was into very niche hobbies. This gruesome gadget served as a public warning. Behave or you'll be the next to spin the wheel. It was the medieval equivalent of a bad game show where every contestant loses and the only parting gift is a one-way ticket to the great beyond. So next time you complain about your car's squeaky wheel, just be. After all, a little WD-40 can fix a squeak, but it definitely can't fix being turned into a human accordion. Crucifixion. Halfway through our list at number 5, we've got crucifixion, a method that really nailed the art of ancient punishment. Known best from ancient Rome, this was no small ordeal. It was like the world's worst block party, and you're the main attraction, hung out to dry, literally. Crucifixion wasn't just about the physical agony, which was by all accounts excruciating. It was the ancient world's version of a public service announcement. Behave, or you'll be the next billboard. Imagine being strung up for the whole town to see, a living don't do what Johnny Don't does. You'd hang there in a macabre display of I told you so for days, becoming a sort of gruesome scarecrow for humans. Passers-by might toss you a sympathetic glance or a jeer, depending on how much they owed you. It was the ultimate stick-around punishment, where the only thing you'd be leaving early was life itself. So next time you're stuck in traffic, hanging at that awkward angle in your seatbelt, remember, at least it's not a Roman cross. And the only thing you're likely to suffer is bad radio and maybe a crick in your neck. In the grand scheme of things, it's a pretty good deal, wouldn't you say? Remember, folks, while these punishments might seem like something out of a horror movie, they were all too real for the people of the past. It gives hanging out a whole new perspective, doesn't it? Ling Chi. Sliding into our number 4 spot with the stealth of a ninja is Ling Chi. If you thought paper cuts were your worst enemy, think again. This ancient Chinese method of execution takes the cake, the bakery, and probably the entire block of shops for overkill. Ling Chi was like the worst kind of unboxing video. Instead of revealing a new gadget, it was more about slowly removing parts that you'd definitely miss. The idea was to keep the victim alive and engaged, while bits and bobs were methodically removed. Talk about taking a little off the top and the sides, and well, everywhere. It's the kind of punishment that makes you reconsider complaining about your last haircut. After all, no matter how bad your bob or how uneven your undercut, at least you left the salon with most of yourself intact. The process was not just a punishment, but a public spectacle. Imagine tuning in to watch, except it's not your favorite TV show, but a live feed of someone playing a gruesome version of Operation, and the buzzer is a person's, not exactly primetime viewing. So the next time you're feeling a bit snippy, or someone tells you, it's just a little off the sides, remember Ling Chi. Suddenly a bad day at the barbershop seems like a walk in the park. And that, death by 1,000 cuts? Let's leave it as a figure of speech, shall we? Sawing. Severing its way into number 3 on our list is sawing, a punishment that really cuts deep, both literally and metaphorically. In this medieval version of splitting headaches, the victim was hung upside down and sawed in half. And you thought splitting the restaurant bill was tough. Being upside down, the blood rush to the head kept the unfortunate soul conscious for the majority of this sawbone ordeal. It's like those inversion tables for back pain, but with a gruesome twist that no one asked for. It's like those inversion tables for back pain, but with a gruesome twist that no one asked for. Imagine the job posting, wanted saw operator. Must have steady hands and an utterly indifferent moral compass. Not exactly the career highlight for most, unless you were in the very niche market of medieval executioners. Now picture this, you're at a magic show and the magician says he's going to saw someone in half. Exciting, right? Except in this act, there's no reappearing legs, no applause, just a very final curtain call. It's the sort of performance where you definitely want your money back. So next time you're fussing over a paper cut or dreading that minor surgery, remember the historical horror of being sawed in half. Suddenly, getting a little off the top at the hair salon doesn't seem so bad, and you'll be thanking your lucky stars that the only saws you encounter are meant for wood, not, well, you get the picture. The Judas Cradle. Perching precariously at number 2 is the Judas Cradle, a device that gives a whole new meaning to sitting down on the job. If you've ever complained about uncomfortable office chairs, prepare to count your ergonomic blessings. The Judas Cradle was like the medieval version of a bad seating arrangement at a dinner party, only infinitely worse. Victims were placed atop a pyramid-shaped seat, with gravity as the uninvited. It's like those trust fall exercises gone horribly, horribly wrong. This wasn't just a punishment. It was a slow, excruciating dance with gravity, where the music never stops, and you really, really want to sit this one out. It's the kind of chair that would make even the sturdiest of stools seem like plush recliners by comparison. Imagine if your chair at work was not just uncomfortable, but actively hostile, promising a day filled with torment rather than just backaches. Suddenly, those complaints about the break room coffee or the air conditioning settings seem a bit trivial, don't they? So next time you plop down on your comfy couch or adjust your office chair to just the right height, spare a thought for the unfortunate souls who had to endure the Judas Cradle. And maybe, just maybe, send a silent thank you to the furniture gods for your benign, non-torturous seating arrangements. The rack. Stretching into our number 1 spot with a tension that's anything but relaxing is the rack. Think of it as the medieval answer to yoga, but instead of finding your zen, you're more likely to find your limbs in postal codes they've never visited before. The rack was the ultimate test of flexibility, only there were no soothing voices telling you to breathe through the stretch. Instead, you had a burly executioner cranking you into a human accordion. If you've ever felt the gym instructor was pushing you too hard, the rack would put things into a whole new, rather disconcerting perspective. This device wasn't just about physical torment. It was a blockbuster drama featuring you in a role that critics would say was a little too stretched out. It's the kind of stretching routine that would make even the most limber gymnast say, "Nope, I'm out." Imagine a world where getting a little stretch in could mean adding a few inches to your height, permanently and not in the good way. Suddenly, those yoga pants and Pilates classes don't seem so daunting, do they? So next time you're groaning about having to reach for the remote or stretch for that top shelf, remember the rack. It's a stark reminder that sometimes a little stretch is just enough. And more importantly, Be grateful that your biggest stretch goal for the day is probably just reaching for that last slice of pizza. And so, the end of our journey through historical horrors. I hope you now appreciate your normal days more because they are definitely better than any day on our list in the past. Don't forget to like if you enjoy living without ancient punishments and subscribe to continue safe historical adventures with us. Thank you for being with us.